Now, if you ask any of the experts out there, they'll tell you that Republicans are absolute toast in the midterms. They're going to lose. They're going to lose the gavel. They're going to lose the majority. They might even lose the Senate. It's all over. They're finished. And there are some reasons to think that way. However, a secret plan has been revealed at a secret meeting, and we've got some details on it that might give us some insight into what the Republicans' strategy is going to be and how President Trump is not even close to giving up on the election this November. And we will get to that story in just 60 seconds. But first, some important information from our sponsor, because we talk about big government programs a lot here. They get so complicated that they stop serving you, the people. And for Medicare enrollees, it's a textbook case. You turn 65, and instead of clarity, you get a stack of rules, deadlines, and plan options with real consequences if you guess wrong. And when the system is this confusing, it creates an opening for nefarious people to steer you toward plans that benefit them and not you. That's why I point people, including my own mother, to Chapter. Chapter does Medicare differently. Their advisors are salaried, so they're not paid to push one plan over another. In fact, they're the only ones that actually compares every plan available nationwide, not just a select few. There's no cost to speak with them, and they can usually walk you through your options in about 20 minutes. On average, people who talk to Chapter save around $1,100 a year. Listen, if you're turning 65 or if you're already on Medicare, call Chapter 580-308-0975. That's 580-308-0975. Honestly, aside from watching this show, I can't think of a better use of 20 minutes. Okay, now back to the video. And we're going to give you the details of that first, but here is how Peter Doocy reported it at Fox News yesterday.
Yes, I just got a text from a senior White House official who is confirming a story that just crossed in Axios. Susie Wiles, the White House chief of staff, James Blair, one of her top lieutenants, and a bunch of chiefs of staff, as well as some cabinet-level secretaries, are meeting right now on Capitol Hill in private, or I should say near Capitol Hill, in private, to try to figure out President Trump's messaging strategy, how to sell his accomplishments and what he plans to do to help their chances in the midterms. Of course, next week, the State of the Union will be the chance to do that in prime time. Brett.
You'll see it right here. Peter Doocy live on the North Lawn. Peter, thanks.
That's right. State of the Union next Tuesday is really the official beginning of Trump and the Republicans' attempt to win these midterms. As of now, Democrats have been, stealing the stage and hogging the microphone, and it's all been about their messaging. And Republicans, for the most part, have been keeping their head down, trying to work on redistricting, fight against Democrats' redistricting efforts, and get stuff done and pass bills. Democrats, all they've had to do is complain and whine and obstruct and call names and demand protests in the streets. And well, you see what their strategy is. So what are the Republicans going to be doing, and what's the messaging going to be when you hear the president make his case on the real beginning of these midterm elections next Tuesday? Well, unlike Peter Doocy's claim that Axios broke this story, they didn't. It was independent journalist Mark Halperin, a colleague of mine. I show up with him on the morning meeting on a regular basis there on the two-way platform. He broke this before everyone else, and it's worth going through in detail exactly what he learned. Last night on Capitol Hill, senior Trump political command briefed its core team on the midterms. Some of what occurred was previously reported by Politico, but here's a more detailed account, according to one of the attendees at the meeting at the Capitol Hill Club. That is when Peter Doocy said it was near the Capitol. Capitol Hill Club is right next to the Republican Party headquarters, and it's on South Capitol. Is it South Capitol? Might be on First Street, just south of the Capitol building and the Cannon office building. All right, the group was served a chicken and steak buffet. See, when they get the meal right, you know they've really got a good source. And if anyone knows Mark Halperin, he always wants to know what the menu was. So I like that little touch. The program went for almost 2 hours, starting at 5:30. It was a veteran group, not panicked or shaken, just focused on the work and the task at hand. By the way, I'm glad that they're not panicked, but I want to prepare you. If you have a rooting interest in these midterm elections and you would like Republicans to maintain their majority in the House of Representatives, because you know that if they do get the Democrats get the majority, that means impeachment proceedings will begin within weeks of Hakeem Jeffries getting the gavel. So I want to prepare you. And I have a rooting interest. I want Republicans to maintain the majority. But we need to be real here. You don't come here because I'm a cheerleader and because I just sort of say, don't you worry, we're doing great and everything's fabulous. And no, I'm telling you like it is. History is not on our side. All right? In any normal midterm election after a Republican wins the White House, the opposing party is going to pick up some seats. Now, when that opposing party also happens to be in the minority in the House and or the Senate, as Democrats are, they pick up even more seats. Add to that the fact that right now, Republicans have literally a 2-seat majority. That's all it takes. Losing those 2 seats, it's over, right? Add to that the fact that they're doing some of the most blatant, despicable gerrymandering, as we've seen in California, but now we're seeing in Virginia, possibly Maryland, and some other states. They're carving out seats for themselves that didn't exist 2 years ago in the last election. Now, Florida and a couple of other red states could offset that, but it's a long shot. Also, the Supreme Court is supposed to be coming down with a decision on the Voting Rights Act that could eliminate many seats that have been designed specifically to be black majority seats, which end up being Democrat seats. They've been drawn that way since the late 60s, but the Supreme Court is expected to say, yeah, not an issue anymore. So those deep red states can now draw away those districts, and they won't be black majority seats anymore, thus making those states probably more representatives of the populace at large. Probably Republicans will pick up those districts. The problem is we got to wait for the Supreme Court to come in with that decision. And primaries are already happening right now in some of those states. So at this point, I don't know if the Supreme Court's going to come up with that decision in time for those districts to be drawn for the 2026 primaries and midterms. All of that means if Republicans don't lose the majority in the House, it will be a miracle. I tell you this because we got to keep it real, and you should be prepared for that. That doesn't mean I'm giving up. It doesn't mean I'm surrendering, and it doesn't mean I'm not going to fight between now and Election Day by delivering the facts and the truth and hammering our political opponents. That said, when Mark Halperin says this was a veteran group, not panicked or shaken, but focused on the work and the task at hand, that gives me some hope. These guys know what they're doing. They're not panicked. They're saying, okay, we've got an election to win. Let's break it down district by district and figure out where we've got the best shot and what our message needs to be. More on this meeting. There were about 75 to 100 people in the room. Many cabinet members were there. Scott Bessent, that'd be your Treasury Secretary, Howard Lutnick, your Commerce Secretary, RFK, Health and Human Services, Sean Duffy, Transportation, along with the most senior aides. Meeting was hosted by Susie Wiles. She's the chief of staff of the White House and the architect of Trump's campaign in 2024. She spoke briefly. The pollster and strategist, Tony Fabrizio, presented with about 25 slides on the data on what voters cared about. All right, so now let's focus on this. The demographics, the issues, what messages resonate and what do not. The economy will be the issue in the election, he said. Messages that break through, banning stock trading for Congress, transparency on health insurance data, including on pricing and claims reimbursement, lowering prescription drug costs, and the Trump tax cuts. Now, let me just be clear here on everything that you just heard. Other than banning stock trading, everything else the Trump administration has already put into motion. The big, beautiful bill, the tax cuts that came along with it. Did you know that the average tax returns right now so far for your 2025 taxes, people are seeing an increase in their refund from the IRS to the tune of about 11% higher? That's because of the tax cuts enshrined in the big, beautiful bill. Everything about the economy that, according to these experts in the Republican caucus, will be the number one issue in this midterm, everything about the economy has pretty much already been put into motion. The tax cuts, the tariffs, the various policies having to do with our interest rates and the economy and trade policies, it's already happened. Now it's just a question of waiting for the money to flow. And we're already seeing indicators with the jobs numbers, with the inflation numbers, with interest rates coming down, that by the time we get to the mid to late summer, when people are really focusing on the upcoming election, the Trump administration believes that the economy is going to be humming along real nice. Add to that the gross domestic product last year, where the economy continues to grow, and they're expecting possibly even a 5% quarter coming up at some point this year, and the stock market continuing to do well. Well, they think they've got the secret sauce. They could still do the ban on stock trading, which would be phenomenal, but sadly, they don't have the votes for it yet because of that slim majority. Transparency on health insurance data they'd love to do, but Democrats aren't helping them. Lowering prescription drug costs they've already put into motion along with the tax cuts. All right, housing affordability is a huge issue for voters, especially young people. Taking credit for closing the border does not resonate much. Think about that for a minute. The border was a nightmare, and everyone said Trump couldn't close it. They've been telling me since the early 2000s that the border can't be closed. Oh, because of rough terrain, we're going to have electronic surveillance, but a wall is unfeasible. There's no way to shut down the border. During the Biden administration, they told me that the border was shut down, even though we saw tens of thousands of people daily crossing it. Trump goes in there, and within 3 months, it's locked down like a steel drum, and no one is crossing the border illegally. And now American voters are like, yeah, what have you done for me lately? Are you freaking kidding me? What the hell is wrong with people? I mean, in a weird way, Trump is a victim of his own success. You know, if he had struggled a little bit to close the border, if it had taken a year maybe, and just now we're sealing it up. We did our best. We worked hard. It wasn't that easy. But now here we are a few months from the election, and we finally shut down the border. Let's celebrate. Maybe then it would have worked politically, but they didn't really care about politics. They just wanted to do what they promised they'd do. And now the American voters like, yeah, open border, closed border. And that's yesterday's news. What have you done for me lately? Unbelievable. Men, moderates, true independents, Hispanic voters are the real persuadable voters there. So if you're a man or a moderate or an independent or a Hispanic voter, get ready to be getting inundated with political messaging on television, on pre-roll ads, streaming channels like this, mailers, text messages. You are screwed for the next 8 months.
Hey, Larry,
the message was, yes, sir.
That,
yes, sir.
That exact demographic box that they just laid out, that Mark just laid out, men, moderates, true independents, and Hispanic voters, that's the coalition he won in 2024 with.
True. Though that was the difference maker for 2024. You're right.
Especially men.
Yep. You're right. His message was not pessimistic. They were hopeful, by the way, in this meeting. They weren't, getting ready with the funeral dirge. He made recommendations to spend time on podcasts and social media more than national news interviews. That's smart. Paid media should go on targeted media, not broadcast or even cable. This show is not really an interview show, but would you guys want me to start interviewing politicians? People from the administration? Let me know in the chat or in the comment section. I'd love to get your tag. This is your show. If you want to see me continue to do the show the way I do it, I'll keep doing the show the way I do it. If you could find interest or enrichment in me doing interviews, I'll start doing that. Facebook is still king for voters, then Instagram and TikTok. There are currently 6 targeted House races and 7 key Senate races. Think about that. 6 House races could make the difference in the majority in the House of Representatives. That's amazing. In 2010, Republicans won over 50, I think it was 50 seats after Barack Obama was elected president in 2008. Here, it'll only take 6. The only way Republicans will lose the Senate majority is if Democrats take 50 House seats. That's not going to happen. Political czar James Blair spoke, presented the historical data of how rare it is for a president's party not to lose a lot of seats in a midterm. That's what I just told you. Tennessee 7 special was going to be lost before a huge push for Election Day. from which they have taken lessons about messaging and grassroots. That's a special election that just happened a couple of weeks ago that looked like Republicans were going to lose. They ended up winning. Trying to argue about wages being up will not help. Voters have to feel it, he said. And that's true. I mean, there are great economic indicators and stats that suggest that the economy is absolutely on the swing and coming back, if not already back. But if you're not feeling it on a day-to-day or month-to-month basis, it really doesn't matter. But it's funny. If you ask people, do you think the economy is good or bad? They'll say bad. And then you ask them, well, what about your own personal situation? A lot of times they say, oh, yeah, I'm in good shape, but the economy is bad. So again, that's because of the echo chamber of the media constantly telling you things are bad. Pay attention to that. He acknowledged that Donald Trump will do what he wants to do, say what he wants to say, and not be data-driven. Everyone else has to stay on message and be driven by the data. In effect, two separate but related campaigns. They expect Democrats will run in large part on the Stop Trump message. That's right. So this is the other handicap that Republicans have. Republicans are going to be talking about policy, things that they've done, more things that they want to do. Democrats have one message: Trump sucks. And it might work, but that's the one message they've got. Now, as I said, and as Peter Doocy reiterated, the campaign really begins next Tuesday at the State of the Union. That's when the president will lay out not just his agenda for the next year legislatively and policy-wise and do a bit of a victory lap about what they got done in their first year, but he will also lay out the political argument that he and his party hope to make between now and Election Day, the first Tuesday in November. Democrats are going to approach the State of the Union with their one message: Trump sucks. Stephen A. Smith, a Democrat commentator and podcaster, well, he thinks that would be a bad idea if Democrats did that.
The president of the United States is going to give his State of the Union address, and the Democrats got other plans. So some are talking about walking out in the middle of his speech. Others are talking about boycotting it altogether and essentially finding something else to do. I'm here to tell you that neither is acceptable. Neither should be acceptable. At some point in time, ladies and gentlemen, there's got to be an adult in the room. If you're going to act as juvenile, as petulant, as petty as you accuse the president of the United States to be, how are you ever going to hold a high moral ground, at least high enough to judge him accordingly? If people on the right can turn and look at you and say, you're no better, you act no better, where's it going to get you? See, these are the kind of things that end up getting people like myself and others in the news, because we're talking about getting things done. I've said repeatedly, and I'll state it again, and I'll make news by saying it again: I have no desire to be an elected official. I've never entertained politics in my life. I'm certainly not an aficionado on the issues. Got a long way to go to learn all the things that go on. But you know what I have? I have common sense. I have decency. I have respect for the office, even when or if I didn't respect the individual. Because I would understand it as a representative, whether it be that as a representative or a senator in the United States of America. Guess what? I have a constituency to answer to. And I have people who need me, who I represent. And whether I like it or not, this individual is in office until 2028. And I got to find a way to do business with him in order to get something done. You see, when you go to the American people and you ask the American people, yo, stand up, step up, and handle your business. Stop bitching and screaming all the time. When you got problems at the job, when you got bills to pay, when you got a family to take care of, find a way to work around it and handle your business. How come that can't apply to elected officials? Why do they get away with that? Why do they get to circumvent those rules and regulations? Why do they get to circumvent the need and the insistence of mere decorum? This is the kind of stuff that ticks me off.
Ticks a lot of people off, and he's not wrong. And that's exactly the danger that Democrats have with people like Stephen A. Smith, who, by the way, last I checked, falls right into that window of attainable and critical voters for Trump and the Republicans these midterms. Democrats are going to do what they're going to do because it's the only thing they know how to do. It's the only thing they've been able to do for the last 10 years. Even in the 4 years when Biden was in the White House, his presidency is defined by opposing Donald Trump. That's all they know how to do, and they'll continue to do it. And I think, if I can agree with Brother Stephen, to their own peril. Listen, this Tuesday night, State of the Union, it's game on for these elections. We'll be watching, and I hope you'll be watching us.